Hey, church. Hope you're doing well today. So, I've been thinking about this passage in First Thessalonians 4. It's on the second coming of Jesus when Jesus comes back for his saints. And what's happened in Thessalonica, the city of where the Christians are here, is some Christians have passed away, and those that are alive are wondering, what's happened to my loved ones? Will I ever see them again? And Paul's given an explanation that all things will be reunited and the church will be reunited in Christ when Jesus returns. That's God's ultimate plan. The passage, of course, is about hope. And let's walk through the text a little bit. The passage is about hope. And what does it mean to have an authentic hope in this world, even when you're feeling marginalized, oppressed, maybe suffering? Maybe it's something you haven't done. Somebody's just putting something into your life that's difficult. Maybe nobody's done anything. You just wake up and your body's sore, or life is really hard on you. Or maybe even you've done some things and they haven't been very good decisions, and you're kind of reaping the consequence of those decisions. What does it mean to have hope as Christians in a world of adversity and opposition and suffering? That's what this passage is about. Well, the first thing we can see here is that tears are often going to accompany hope. Notice that it says that you may not grieve as others that have no hope. It's not that the Christians here aren't going to cry. It's not that they don't have a lot of grief, but it's going to be a different kind of grief than the world will have. So when Christians cry, when you feel a lot of grief, that doesn't mean your heart and your life is void of hope or anybody else's is. Jesus, of course, wept over the death of Lazarus. He was full of hope. Job was full of hope, even when his tears fell. The psalmist is full of hope in many of the Psalms, even when he's crying out with great grief. The challenge here is not that we don't grieve, but we don't want to grieve as the world that has no hope. We grieve in a way knowing we have hope. So tears often accompany authentic hope. And when we see another brother or sister in tears or in grief, the challenge or the encouragement we want to give is not to stop crying or stop worrying about things, but direct our hearts towards Christ. So even though the tears fall, they've fallen away in the direction of hope and in the direction of God. The second thing we see is that hope always plays the long game. Our hope is not necessarily that in this life everything's going to work out okay. Now, I'm thankful that a lot of bad things that happen to us do end up well in this life. Many times you lose a job, you get a better one. Many times a relationship breaks up for whatever reason, and relationships are interrupted by things. A lot of times better relationships form. So thankfully, God has given us a common grace, and he works in our life and he works in our world, and things often get better in this world. But that's not the promise here. Things don't always get better. Sometimes they even get worse. The call here is to play the long game, the eschatological game, that our hope is not in this world. It's not that, well, God's given me lemons and I'm going to make lemonade. That's not the hope we have here. The hope is the return of Christ and the ultimate reality that Jesus will make the wrongs of this world right. That's our ultimate authentic hope. Another one here that really speaks to me. I've lost my father. I'm getting to the age here, mid 40s, where you start to lose some friends and family members. The hope here is that there will be a glorious reunion of God's people. I absolutely love this word in verse 17. If you don't get anything out of this, get this one word in verse 17. We will be caught up together. That word together is a whole sermon unto itself. That when Jesus returns, he is not just going to restore us to himself. We're not just going to see Jesus face to face. We're going to be reunited with those that have gone before us. Maybe you've lost a mom or a dad, somebody that you love. Maybe it's been a child, which I think is the toughest kind of loss. Whatever loss of loved one that you've had, seize on this word together. Then we who are alive, we who are left, will be caught up together with those are those that have gone before us, and we're going to meet the Lord in the air together. And guess what? We will always be with the Lord. That means when that reunion takes place with those that have died and those that are still alive, that reunion is going to last for eternity. So the relationships that inevitably end in this world because of death, Jesus is going to restore those. What a beautiful picture. The last one is this: don't grieve by yourself, all right? Because hope thrives in community. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. I think as people, especially Christian people, but if you're not a Christian, please find a community where you can do this and go to a church, visit a church, start talking to Christians, because we encourage one another with these words. God never intended his people to find hope just by themselves, but to encourage one another with the hope of Jesus, with the hope of this great reunion. That's how we grieve in a way that has hope and not grieving like the world. We want to be in small groups. We want to be in worship. We just want to be connected with our Christian friends. Not only do you need to be encouraged by words like this, but God is calling you to encourage people with words like this. So, do you know somebody that's hurting? Maybe just reach out to them today and say, hey, friend, I love you. I want you to know I'm praying for you. I want you to know that I believe that God's got a wonderful plan for you despite what's going on. And if you need anything, I'm here for you. Just encouraging one another with these words. God bless you, friends.